Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com. Welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen. I'm joined again by Tony Colomb, our co-host, and Nick Duffel, who's going to tell us the second part of his journey. So, Nick, last time you kind of got us up to the point where you're about to plant a church. How did that happen? Like we kind of covered like your exit of your last ministry. So how did you get started? Tell us the story.
Yeah. So I had wrapped up my time at the church where I was a lead pastor for 5 years, and that was in a small town that's close by Boise, and we knew that we wanted my wife and I and our boys. We knew we wanted to move. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and we knew that we wanted to move back over to Boise, but we weren't sure what was next. And I was considering church planting for the first time ever. It was something I always thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Uh, but it was honest. I mean, if I'm honest, one of the things factoring in was it sounded. I know church planting is hard. I know it's challenging. It sounded harder and more challenging and more exhausting to go to an established church and do again what we had done than it did to start over with, and yet we knew ourselves, and we knew that doing it on our own, I think that's a whole nother level of, a parachute drop type church plant where you're going to a new area and building up that network and that kind of stuff. We knew that it would work best for us, how we're wired to partner with a church very deeply, and we didn't know exactly what that looked like, but a church happened to reach out to me, Hill City Church here in Boise. They're in downtown Boise, right downtown, in a like 115-year-old building that they renovated, and
It's cool.
they contacted me. Yeah, they contacted me and said, we and I knew Josh, their lead pastor. We'd known each other for a while, but he said, would you be willing to come? And we've been talking about multiplication for a long time and church planting, and we've had some false starts with some other folks that we thought were going to come and be, a resident for us, and then plant a church, and it didn't work out. And so we came on, went through assessment with Hill City, but came on staff knowing that we were going to plant, and just not exactly what that would look like. And yeah, and so that journey was unexpected in so many ways, but very appreciative of Hill City Church and their heart for multiplication, for taking a chance on us. Was a It was really cool how God put our two stories together.
Mhm. Cool.
Yeah,
So what did that look like? I mean, they want to plant a church. They found you.
yeah,
Like, walk us through, like, how did that, what were the steps? You went through assessment, obviously, but then,
yeah,
I mean, I kind of know some of this, but I'm trying to bleed it out of you here. Like,
yeah. No, it's good.
does that work?
I mean, I could just rattle off the story, but I kind of wanted to. Um, yeah, I think it's good to kind of talk through it. But yeah, in at the end of 2023, December 2023 is when I started at Hill City Church. And
Mm.
then and I think we at that point we didn't even really have an idea of the timing. It's like, okay, well, this could be like a multi-year process. What's that going to look like? What does Hill City need? What do we need? And just kind of figuring that out. So there wasn't really a timeline on like, okay, in 1 year we're going to do this or whatever.
Right.
But we went actually back east for an assessment that was being hosted, um, and Josh, the lead pastor, went with us, and Beth and I went and uh, went through this assessment. And through the process of the assessment, they said, "You guys are ready to plant, but it would be good if it was." And we kind of had already discerned this, like I said, but it'd be good if it was a higher support type environment, or
Hmm.
where maybe there's a vision, ascending vision, from the sending church, and
Hmm.
then that kind of allows time for Nick and Beth to develop their own vision. And what was interesting about that is Josh and I had already kind of thought about and talked about, what if we did some kind of a campus to plant
Okay.
type model, which is actually Hill City's story. It was a little more complicated than that, because it wasn't it was started they were started as a campus but not intended to be a plant, and then it
Right.
it needed to become a plant because of what was going on with the sending church. And so it was kind of an unintentional campus to plant. And there was still some people, honestly, at Hill City that if you said the word campus, they were gonna flip out, because it didn't go well. There was still some residual pain
Oh,
from that.
from the previous thing.
Yeah, from the previous thing. Yeah. And
That
so and so we were kind
PTSD
of
around
like,
the
this isn't a
term. Yeah.
slam dunk. Yeah, this isn't a slam dunk. Like, could be great, but
Yeah.
and it would work really well, we think, but how do we talk about this? So that was in April. By May, we were talking about Hill City West launching a campus to plant. Like, from the very beginning, we talked about this is not going to be a campus in perpetuity. This is going to be a plant.
Mm.
And then we launched it that fall, and it
Oh,
it was
wow.
it was like a breakneck speed. It felt crazy fast. But I think one of the things behind that is Hill City had been talking about church planting for years,
Okay.
and so the pump was kind of primed for that.
Mm.
It felt fast for Beth and I, because we kind of came in
You
in
just jumped in
kind
near
of
the
near.
stream.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But I don't think for the church it didn't feel rushed, and I think for that reason it all worked out. It worked out very naturally. And we said, okay, a year, um, a year of being a campus, and then we will be working towards autonomy. And at that point, we'll spin off. We'll have our own name and our own, nonprofit and all that, and our own elders. And
Mm.
um, pretty again, feels like a pretty intense timeline.
Mm.
But it's pretty amazing to see how God just worked through that, and a lot. I mean, I could tell lots and lots of stories, but um, yeah, here we
So,
are. And again, it didn't go exactly like we thought, but yeah.
some of the like the details on the launch itself, like had Hill City already like picked out a location, like did
Mm,
you have a launch team, like those sorts of things. Like for
yeah.
you, as it felt so quick, like had they already kind of put some of those practical steps in place? Then it was just like, all right, now's the time. Let's move these people over there. I mean, did you have that kind of a thing going on through Hill City?
Uh, a little bit, but I think what was interesting about the whole thing was Hill City was originally looking at planting in to the east of them,
Oh.
in East Boise. And that actually had been something they talked about, and East Boise to this day is a very underchurched area. It's not a lot of churches, and there's a lot of growth. But Beth and I felt called to West Boise for a lot of reasons. And
Mm.
actually, Josh, it's just kind of one of those interesting things, but he had a dream.
Mm.
Um, this was months before I even came on staff at Hill City. It was while I was still on staff at my previous church, and he didn't know anything about me leaving, but he had a dream about a church getting planted in West Boise, and me being the campus pastor, which is really really strange.
Mm.
And so when we talked after assessment, we were like, I think West is where we need to go, which was different than what the church was planning on. And and so that's what we did. And yeah, I mean, in terms of launch team, all that kind of stuff, I think that there was already money set aside. There was because we decided to go west, there was Boise Bible College where we met, which actually I think it might have been Eric who, like a while back, was
Long
like,
time ago.
why is there not a church at Boise Bible College, like meeting
Now
at
wait a
Boise
minute,
Bible
wait a
College?
minute. We were
Hey,
but
that's a
the
great
context
question,
was
though.
you were the
For real.
president. You were the president of the Bible college, and we were talking about how the Bible college needs money. And I'm like,
Yeah,
we just need to like get a church meeting in that big auditorium
yeah,
on Sundays.
yeah,
And so yeah.
totally. Yeah, I was yeah serving on the board, and you were like, and actually I think you might have been serving on the board at that point too, and
Was Mike
and
Packer on
and
the
we were.
board then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he
Oh,
was. Yeah, he
okay.
was. And we were like, and we were like, there's a few church planting folks on there, and yeah, it was kind of like, why is this not? And it felt very obvious,
Mm.
and it worked out really well. So the facility wasn't difficult. The launch team, we kind of spent the summer building that up, and because a I was reasonably new on staff and kind of an unknown quantity. We had a few people come over from downtown, not as many people as we hoped,
Mm.
um, but the church still grew rapidly from the community, which was really cool. So we actually ended up having a lot more people step in from the community than that came from downtown.
And that's
But
an
great
important
support.
that's an
Yeah,
important detail real quick because for people that don't know,
Mm.
Hill City is like busting at the seams. They're
yeah,
totally landlocked. They can't expand their property, right?
right.
And so they're part of their reason, I think I'm saying this right,
Yeah,
initially for planting churches was to send some people away,
Get people out.
yeah.
right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, and
It
I would
didn't work.
say it was like partially helpful, but they still ended up having to launch an evening service to try
Okay.
yeah, and so and
Just
yeah,
seems
try to
like
figure out how to make that continue to work. Yeah, because like Eric said, it's uh and I think that was kind of one of those indicators that
Mm.
this path of multiplication, it's like, is Hill City going to become this massive regional mega church with like, 7 weekend services? Or are, are we going to take the folks that God is sending us, the leaders, the money, and put it toward multiplication? And so I really appreciate the heart of the leadership in that way. I mean, they are not about like, hey, let's get bigger. It's kind of like, how do we send people? How do we
Mhm.
reach particular neighborhoods? So I think part of the strategy that actually did work well was that being very geographically focused with the campus, and saying this is for people who are at Hill City who live in this area. It's not a, hey, try it for, support it for a year as it gets off the ground or whatever. It was like, who wants to make this their home church?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I do think it is, a lot of it is me uh not being as known on staff. What's interesting is just recently, as we're recording this, Hill City has announced Hill City East, that initial vision of going to East Boise, and the person who's the going to be that campus to plant, um, campus pastor, has been with Hill City since the very beginning, since day one. And so this is going to be a different animal altogether.
Interesting. Yeah. That'll be
And I'm
interesting.
really excited to see how it goes. What's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I said that'll be really interesting to
Yeah,
see.
it's
So,
Yeah.
one of the
totally. It'd
things
be interesting to see
is
how it goes. I think I think it's gonna be phenomenal. I think this actually does have the potential to really relieve some of that,
Sure.
those growing pains. So
Well, one of the
Sure.
things that's interesting, when you talk about church planting to your church, um, at some point you have to do it or people won't believe you. Like you
right.
can get up and say we're a disciple making church planting church, but it's at some point you got to actually do it or your credibility when
Mhm.
you say those things, it's like it's not really our mission, it's just something we talk about. It's more of a daydream. And so for them to
Mhm.
be that committed to pull the trigger on it, not once but twice,
Yeah.
is fantastic. We when we came, our church is like real different in that way, but we're like bivocational and small and committed to church planning, and we started this whole,
Mhm.
it's different, but I kept saying to our leadership, like at some point, if we don't plant a second church off of ourselves, then we're just talking. It's just hot air,
Mhm.
and
Right.
there'll be a point when people say, like, hey, so like our daughter church launches a week from Sunday. They've done preview services. October 5th, they launch.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we're very excited. There's a ton of energy. People are really excited. And like, we're
Mhm.
already talking as a leadership, like about like, hey, where's our next one? Which town are we
Mhm.
going to? Who's gonna go and plant the church?
Mhm.
And when you say that stuff, it's one thing, but when you start doing it, man, the
Mhm.
excitement level gets big,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
you really feel like I suppose this could be generally true about any vision, but when you tell people this is what you're doing and then you pull it off, there's something about that that's just energizing,
Yeah.
and when you see
Yeah.
people you sending out doing the thing and it's working and there's such joy.
Yeah.
As much as we like to see things grow and get big, it's just like you talked about, Nick, with like the youth workers. That like you saw your youth ministry grow and get big, and when the time came for you to hand it off, you handed it off to people that you had raised up, right? And the joy of that, of like knowing that
Yeah.
it's capable hands and that it's going to continue on, from people that were like your own folks, that there's something about that that's just kind of next level
Mhm.
exciting. It's a lot different than like sending a check to a church planting organization
Mhm.
every month and going, go do it. Go do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a level in Hill City West was kind of a proof of concept
Mm.
thing. It was like, yeah, we've been talking about it. Can it happen? And yeah, what's been really cool to see, I mean, because so Evergreen, you know, we spin off as an autonomous church after a year, which was the goal. And then just a couple of weeks later, they're announcing the next campus to plant. So I mean, there's that kind of really
Wow.
cool, like this isn't going to be a one-off kind of thing. But the main reason that was able to happen is because our uh, obviously God has been blessing Hill City in some really amazing ways. But like for somebody who's essentially a founder, one of the founders of Hill City, to say, I God's calling me to this. Like I need to go. I mean,
Mm.
that a lot of that came from
Mm.
kind of seeing, wow, this, like you're saying, Eric, that when it goes beyond talk and it starts turning into action, it
Mm.
motivates other people to take those steps of action.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's kind of like it's a interesting kind of accountability. And I think Mario, like we talked about earlier, I think Mario um stepping out in that way in church planting from the church I was at previously was inspiring, or almost even an admonishing thing for me of like,
Mm.
hey, you're encouraging this guy to step into this, but why are you not stepping into what God has,
Right.
And so I see that just perpetuating, as other people step, it doesn't make it easier, but it's like, oh, okay, this is happening, and now I can do it. Um, so yeah, it's pretty amazing. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to get into the merger part of
I
the
was
planting story,
I
but
was hoping to, yeah, because I think that's a
yeah.
little bit of a different dynamic for you guys. And one of the questions I was going to wonder too is like, you guys change your name. I mean, I know there's the autonomous dynamic. I was wondering if the merger had anything to play into that as well. But then I just
Mhm.
was curious about that merger, what that looked like
Sure.
what was going on there? How did that conversation start? How's it gone
Yeah.
so far? Because that can be a sticky thing to make your way
Mhm.
through. But it sounds like from all the way over here on the coast, it's working out wonderfully.
Yeah, it totally. And I think so. So Hill City, we mentioned earlier the building that they're in. Uh, that that situation came through a merger. So uh, Hill City in 2021, the beginning of 2022, I think maybe um, they they merged with the church that was in that building.
Mhm.
And it was a really healthy thing. It came at a really critical time for Hill City and their story.
Mhm.
Well, about 6 months into Hill City West, so we're about the halfway point. This is the point where we have to decide, is a year, like we're 6 months to when we're saying we're going to be autonomous, is that actually going to happen, or do we need to adjust the timeline? And we held it kind of loosely with people as we talked about it. Like, we'll see. I mean, a year is the goal, but if we have to adjust it, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's more important that this new church be healthy and
Mhm.
sustainable than that we get to say, hey, look, we did this.
Yeah.
And then it fizzles out in 6 months or whatever. But um, about that point, we were approached by another church that was aware that we had done the merger in the past. The merger had happened in the past,
Mhm.
and a church called North State, and they had been around. They were about a year old at the time, and um, great, great lead pastor. His name is Jesse, and a very talented leader. But I would say he did the church planting thing in a very unsupported way,
Mhm.
and struggled, not for lack of talent or for lack of calling, but from lack of support.
Mhm.
And so he came and said, "Is there a possibility here of merging?" And they were in a building uh, in West Boise, not far from us, or they were just in the process of moving into that building and leasing it. And so we could step in, take over the lease, merge our two churches together,
Mhm.
which would help us hit one of our benchmarks, which was we needed a facility. Boise Bible College was like a one year
Yeah.
thing, and we weren't expecting it to go further than that. So
Right.
um, interestingly, the church that we are meeting in now that we're leasing is a Friends church.
Oh, wow.
The Friends congregation still meets in half the building, and then we lease half the building. It's right next to a high school in this area called Capitol High School, and I had been bringing my kids over to for sports practices at Capitol for years. I mean, even before I was on staff at Hill City, I was coming over, and I had prayed over this building lots of times. Not, Lord, give me that building, but like, wow, that is in such a strategic place, and it doesn't seem like a whole lot's happening. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if God, if you would use that for the kingdom? So, I mean, this was years and years and years of praying over this
Yeah.
building. Had no idea that one day I would be sitting in the building, and then ministry would be. And it's not about the building as much as it's about
Right.
the kingdom potential, and so pretty amazing. So yeah, we spent the next 6 months, a couple months of discernment, like, is this something we should move forward in, and is God in this, and seeking, and a lot of conversations, and Jesse and I getting together and talking, getting to know one another, because he's gonna stay on in this associate pastor position,
Cool.
and I would take over as lead pastor, kind of the merged congregations. And so a lot of great conversations and uh, merge stuff that we did throughout the summer to get ready after we announced that this is happening, and lots of excitement, and all the way up till September. And it's yeah, like you mentioned, Tony, great launch. We had a launch Sunday that was larger in attendance than either church's launch Sundays had been
Awesome.
initially,
Wow.
um, and bigger than our Easters had been,
Wow.
and so it was a really it was a very healthy launch, and we estimate there's about a launch Sunday especially, and then we've had a few Sundays as well that is we've seen this. It's like a third Hill City West people, a third North State people, and then again a third from the community. So the community has been coming to these,
Wow.
um, and I think that's something I really want to highlight is because you think, oh, a campus to plant, you're sending people from a church, and so what really is the gospel impact for that? Are you just kind of moving people, shell gaming people
Sure. Sure.
around? But Hill City, just this last Sunday, actually, Josh presented the church baptism numbers for the last year, which includes Hill City West. But he kind of broke it out as like, in terms of a ratio of people to baptisms, which you can associate with
Mhm.
people taking that step to follow Christ.
Mhm.
Hill City West actually had a higher ratio of that than Hill
Mhm.
City downtown. And so that's what I love about church planting in general is when you talk about the gospel impact, you talk about reaching unreached people. That's what I get excited about.
Yeah.
That's really, it's like, this is why we need more churches, not just because we need more spaces to hold people who are already believers, or more new exciting things for believers to migrate from this church over to this new
Right.
thing that's happening, or whatever, which we
Right.
know we know happens, right?
Totally.
And so it's like we're talking about, if it had just gone well and we had merged our churches and we're like, okay, most of the people made the jump with us, that's awesome,
Mm.
but there wasn't community impact.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's a win on one level, I guess, but are we actually having an impact in this community?
Right.
Again, back to what Eric was talking about with talking about it. We can talk about it, but do the metrics actually show that we're doing it?
Yeah.
And
Amen.
so, yeah, so it's cool. It was really cool to see it be like, wow, okay, this talking point that we had of we're merging, churches because because we believe we're better together to impact this part of Boise.
We've
Mhm.
had
That was the talking point, but
we've had something really similar happen here. I a lot of times in the fall and even the winter, I'll get up early and when it's dark and go on a walk
mm,
to pray. And I live kind of downtown Twin Falls, and so I kept walking by this church building and going, feels like there's not a lot going on there. I don't know, but I was just
mm,
curious, and I'd pray for him, and then it started being like, pray about him. And it's not like every day or anything,
mm.
just on and off praying for that church, like, and about it for a couple of years. And like 2 weeks ago, they voted to give us their building. You
Oh
know,
wow, that's amazing.
it's a longer story. I've been preaching for him for 8 months on Sunday mornings and doing a lot
Mm,
of massaging and talking and casting vision. But same deal, and
wow.
it's like you just see something and I wonder how many times
Yeah.
people see a thing and have a thought and just forget it. It's like,
Mm,
it's that kind of thing that Jesus taught about, knock, seek, and ask. And Tony has
Mhm.
a similar story. That's how they acquired the facility in Napa. And
Mhm.
it's kind of fun to hear that. Well, listen, in
mm.
our last few minutes here, um, so do you have that vision? Are you like, I want to get this church going and then we're gonna plant churches? Is that the vision?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we had our second Evergreen Elders meeting this week, just a couple days ago, and it was, I mean, holding it very loosely in terms of what's the next 3 to 5 years look like, because I mean, there's so many things about this journey that we never anticipated. Like, first, you know, we're gonna do this assessment, then we're gonna launch, we're gonna do it with a campus, then we're gonna merge with another church. I mean, it's like all these things
Yeah.
that we could never have anticipated. We're just trying to keep in step with the spirit. But yeah, I mean, we've already have that vision, which I think comes from a lot of my conversations. A lot comes from my conversations with you, Eric, of like, if you don't if you don't keep it as a talking point, at that level, um, then when these opportunities do come along, you don't have you're not ready to jump on it.
It's out
You're
of
not
left
ready to
field.
follow
Yeah.
where God's leading. Yeah. And it has to be a talking point. So it was, so it's like, okay, what does it look like for us to have, for us to be stable, like in the next year? That's the goal. Like we do want to be stable. We want to be, have a sustainable, uh, where we know, okay, we're established as a church. But if stability is the only vision, then I mean that's not a great vision. Like we just want to not die, you know. And so and so it's like, okay, so then what does growth look like, and then what does multiplication look like? And so we talked
Right.
through a lot of that stuff as at that eldership
That's
level,
awesome.
and it means we have to have people here that we've identified, kind of like what happened with Mario, kind of like what happened
Yeah.
with the successors in youth ministry that I had, years ago. It's like who's, the who, like the who question, right? Like, is there a person or persons here that we see that planter potential in, or multiplication potential in, and then the way it happens is pretty, it can be up in the air, because the
Yeah.
way Hill City
Absolutely.
West to
Yeah.
Evergreen to, all that happened was,
Mhm.
we didn't, like I said, we didn't map that out. There was no whiteboard or whatever, but it was, but the who was always that conversation. And the fact that we did want to have multiplication, um, we had that multiplication vision. So yeah, for sure. And there is actually a couple here that I'm like, yeah, they
That's
could,
amazing.
they could be that, and we've had those conversations, and we've talked on that level. It could be, years out, or we could end up being like one of many sending churches. Like, we don't know what that's going to look like. But we want it to be part of who we are.
I think part of
Awesome.
the trick, in this, guys, is that we want certain things to happen, but we're not doing the things that make those things happen, right?
Yeah, right.
And when we had a couple of years ago, it was like 2 years ago, um, I was training preachers because I feel like, we talk about making disciples, training pastors, plant churches. And that's kind of a sequence in my mind. It's not three separate things we're doing. From the overflow of disciple making, leaders should emerge. And if leaders are
Mm,
emerging, then churches should be being planted.
right.
There's no commandment in the scripture to plant churches, but we see it happening. And so, like, well, how did that happen?
Mm,
It's the overflow of intentional disciple making.
Right.
And so when people say, oh, we're all about discipleship, my questions are, who are the leaders that are emerging? And from those leaders, is there anyone that you're going to send out? Maybe not to planting, but even just to ministry. So 2 years ago, I had 7 guys in my preaching team, and I'm sitting here one morning in my office, and it dawned on me, like, man, I don't have enough reps for these guys. Like, we have 4 Sundays a month, and I've got 7 guys. Um, and I usually take 2 for myself, selfishly, as a senior pastor. I'm like, I get 2 Sundays a month. That's it. And I remember thinking, this is a problem, but it's a good problem. Well, fast forward a year later, we commissioned one guy out, sent him out to be a youth pastor at an established church. We had identified a second guy as going to be the guy that plants the new church in Jerome. And at that same season, we had 2 churches, local churches in like Twin Falls area, say, we could really use some help with preaching.
Mm.
And
mm,
it occurred to me, like, I've never had churches reach out and ask for me to send preachers before.
yeah.
And I've never had preachers before.
Yeah. Wow.
So I did the work, we did the work of raising up guys, and then opportunities came. And I
Yes.
wonder how
Yes.
often it's like, man, why can't our church do this and this and this? You're not doing the work. You're
Yeah.
not ready for those
Mm,
opportunities, and so you're not getting them. Or
yeah.
once in a while, an opportunity comes, and you're like, we can't do that. So I would just say, like, to you as a guy that's planting a church, and with that in mind, and for anybody that's listening, is like, hey, do the work of disciple making, get that in motion.
Yeah. I love
All these
that.
kinds of opportunities will come, but
Mhm.
it can't be wishful thinking. It can't be like, one of these days we're gonna be a church planting church. You never will.
Mm,
You've got to do
mm,
some groundwork for those kind of things to happen, which Hill City is a great example. Been talking about it, praying about it, scheming about it, and then boom, and boom, boom, right? Like they're going to do it and do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's
Well,
awesome.
Nick, do you have any final words for us before we wrap up today? Anything you want to close with?
Oh man, I think I mean after that mic drop moment from Eric, that was I think I love that. I just want to kind of put an exclamation point on that, I think. Because that's what I've been inspired by when it comes to church planting is not church planting for church planting's sake, but as a manifestation of disciple making. And I think one piece I didn't mention, but it's been a big part of my story is going on short-term missions and partnering with and getting to see what's happening cross-culturally. And it's backwards from what we do. People will start making disciples and then churches form. Like when there's enough disciples, then a church just forms.
Right.
Whereas we often start something and just advertise the heck out of it and just try to get people to show up. And it's backwards from what we're seeing. And I think I'm seeing a trend to something else that you're talking about, Eric, which is let's make disciples. Let's see leaders emerge out of that, and let's see churches start. And the how, the what of that, I've learned over the last year, especially year and a half. There's no sense trying to prescribe that. It's because these opportunities show up and you never would have thought, oh, okay, we're looking for this particular thing, or we're trying to have it, it just, but then do we have the capacity to take those opportunities when they come? So
sure. Well, Nick, how do people find you? What's your website?
Our church website is evergreenboise.org. So follow along with stuff that's happening, and I would love prayers as we're continuing to go through this season of merging and launching kind of at the same time. And God is good. It's going really well. It's not without its challenges, but we really see prayer as
that's great,
as crucial during the season. So
of course, always need more prayers. Well, let me wrap us up and we'll get out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure and check out our sponsors at 9centprinting.com, owned and operated by a church planting couple, by the way. If you like what we're doing, please like or subscribe where you watch or listen. And if you're interested in Small Town Network, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. If you believe in the importance of planting disciple-making churches in smaller communities, we'd love you to consider partnering with us in prayer or financial support. And you've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 5-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9 Cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com.